Okay, Aztecs killed the Mayans, not the Amigos. Okay, everybody, welcome aboard Astrology Unplugged tonight, number 112. Next week, we will be doing what I promised, which is free charts for about 10 minutes each. I must be nuts, and I don't know what order I'm going to do it or how, and I won't be able to do everybody, and therefore, I'm not going to record it next week because I don't think people want their name and their birthday and information given out on YouTube. So we are recording tonight, and welcome aboard. Tonight is an astrology night, and this has been on my mind for a long time. As a matter of fact, last July I talked a little bit about Trump's chart and his Venus-Saturn conjunction in the middle. Tonight we're going to go much deeper into that. I'm going to show you what's going on, what's coming up. And people get on my back all the time. But you said this was going to happen, and this didn't happen. This didn't happen. Well, it's not like that. It's the type of thing. I'm explaining to you. And I don't care if I'm right or wrong. I've been doing it so long, I really don't care. But I know I'm sort of right. I know I'm sort of in the ballpark. And we're going to get into that. Oh, okay. Tracy the Leo. All right. Great to have you with us. And another Kathy, too. Okay. Now, keep in mind at the bottom of the screen, if you like, there is a chat facility that you can chat to each other or chat to the whole group. This will not go through to YouTube. Also, your name, which is visible now, will not go through also. If you chat with me, most likely I won't have time to address it because I'm quite busy with all these buttons and all these notes I've got. Okay, now, Mr. Trump's chart, you have to remember, I will not call him the president because I don't believe that we have one. Mr. Trump's chart, since it is, whatever you got to say, the head of this country, when his chart is hit, it affects all of America. Just like the boss of a company, his chart gets hit, it affects all the people in the company. And not only that, at least it's arguable, but in a lot of ways, I think you can still say America is the leading country in the world, although that's quickly dissipating. So whatever is happening in Mr. Trump's chart, I want you to consider it's happening to Trump, it's happening to you, it's happening to all of America, it's happening to the whole planet as I talk about it. One thing that people don't realize when they talk about the planets, especially Pluto, Neptune, Uranus. These planets are not personal. You are connected to a higher octave. Your brain is connected to a collective mind that Jung talked about, Freud talked about. That's a mind that's much bigger than your mind. So get over it if you keep thinking that everything's going on is in your head, because it isn't. So let's quickly get to Mr. Trump's chart. I'm going to share it right now. And here's his birth chart. And I have a monitor here. Okay, I'm going to quickly go over his birth chart in case you're not familiar with it. It is an exquisite chart. There are many things about it that are hyper special. There are many people born June 14th, 1946, probably in the same hospital, probably at the same time, and they're nothing like him. So your chart is part of you, but you have to also take into account your background, your parents, your socio-economic situation. We see that Mr. Trump is a Gemini, okay? Right away, when you are a Gemini, you have to have help in the chart. Because Geminis, by definition, are very intellectual. They're very much about little bits of lots of little facts. But they're not usually deep, and they're not usually very emotional. Almost all my friends are Gemini men. I have a lot of fun with them. They're a blast, etc. But you have to have help in the chart to find emotion. You have to have help in the chart from the other planets to find depth, okay? So first thing we look at with Mr. Trump is his moon is over here in Sagittarius. So the moon in Sag is almost identical to the sun in Gemini. They're very much alike. So they're both very quick moving, fast, very much into the media, talkative, changeable. Can't make up my mind, change my mind, can't make up my mind, is very much a Gemini Sag thing. Now, if his moon were over in Capricorn, you have a completely different individual. Just 18 hours later, if he was born, 18 hours later, the moon would be in Capricorn. But it's in Sag. Also, Mr. Trump, I don't know what this means, was born during a lunar eclipse. This is not just a full moon. This is a lunar eclipse that was forming within one or 2 hours of his birth. Okay, now if that's not enough, the sun is right next to powerful Uranus. And thank God for him and us that there's at least 5 degrees between these two. This gives him some brilliance. This makes him think fast. This is why he shoots from the hip. This is why he claims outrageous things. This is why he does things that are just so unusual and atypical. And why he wants to play everything. Bring him in, I'll talk to him. Bring him in, I'll talk to him. Send me there, I'll go talk to them. He shoots from hip, he's quick. Just like I'm quick, because I'm born with sun opposite Uranus. He's born with sun next to Uranus, okay? Now, the plus side of being conjunct Uranus is it makes you brilliant. The downside is it makes you erratic, unsteady, unpredictable, unnerving. Okay, but it's still not enough to go on yet. We just looked at 3 planets. Okay. Now, back here, we see the Mercury is in Cancer. So the Mercury is very important because that's the leading planet. Mercury rules Geminis, and his Mercury being in Cancer makes it a little more emotional because of Cancer than it does Gemini. So we're glad that he picks up some emotion from there because he's got to get it somewhere. The other 2 personal planets, Venus and Mars, your 5 personal planets are Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. Well, Venus is in Cancer, and that also is good in a lot of ways. Ultimately, it's terrible, but in a lot of ways it could have been good because it opens you up to emotion. And we got to get emotion, remember? Because you're Gemini. Mars and Leo. Mars and Leo is very powerful because Mars is how you go get what you want, and Mars and Leo is, I told you I'm going to do it, I'm going to go do it. He's on the verge of taking billions from the coffers and building a wall because he said he's going to do it. I said he's going to do it, I'm going to do it. Now, question whatever motivation he has, Mars is a I'm going to do it placement in Leo. So, you've seen the 5 personal planets. The Mars happens to be extremely exaggerated because it's right on the ascendant. There is some argument within 20, 30 minutes of when he's born. There are some other charts on Mr. Trump that puts the Mars further up into the 12th house, but nevertheless, the Mars is very strong, and it's on the ascendant. Mars is very comfortable on the ascendant because the ascendant is the first house, which is like Aries. All first houses are like the sign of Aries, and Mars is the ruler of Aries. So Mars is very comfortable there. But in a lot of reasonable terms, the trouble with Mars and Leo is a bull in a china shop. I'm going to run you over because I'm going to run you over because you're in the way, and I'm going to run you over. And being in Leo, a lot of times, it's I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to run you over because you deserved it. So this is where he gets a lot of his bluntness from. All right. Did you notice the pattern? The whole chart is kind of in a bucket pattern, and the moon is all by itself. Now, we got an entirely change to the chart. The moon by itself, even though it's in Sagittarius, becomes very emotional because the moon is the handle of the bucket. And therefore, the moon, I don't care if it's in Sag or what sign, he's very lunar. And lunar people, if they don't watch out, I had one call me last night. If you don't watch out for somebody with too much moon, it's all about them. The whole world has got the circle around them at all times. You ever have a family like that? You've seen somebody and you got to circle your whole life around this one person, or they're going to whine and complain and manipulate or whatever. Well, he's got it big time, okay? He didn't have to. He could have done things to correct this. But what does he do? He finds a way every day to be in our face. All right. The real meaning of it is lunar people don't feel inherently that they can handle things, and they want somebody to take care of it for them. I'm giving you my opinions. I'm old enough now. I'll give you my opinion. If you don't like it, that's okay. You can put your opinion somewhere. All right. I've given a lot of research to it. So a lunar person needs help, like a Saturn trine to that moon, like a moon in Virgo, like Saturn, Mercury in Capricorn. They need other things down to earth, but a moon by itself is dangerous. And moon in Sag is all about losing control. If there are 2 or 3 signs in the zodiac that are about losing control, it's Sagittarius, it's Pisces, and a lot of times it's Gemini. The mutable signs, they lose control. Or just getting started. Now, we come down here and we see this fabulous triplicity here. It really is something special to the people born in 1946. This Jupiter, Chiron, and Neptune in Libra, separated by 12 degrees. Jupiter is out of here within a year. These two stayed together pretty much for a while. But this is a wonderful sign of somebody who's got terrific charisma. We see this with Neil Young. We see it with Stephen Stills. We see it with Van Morrison. You wonder where they get these special talents. And they get a lot of it from that triplicity there, which is called, in astrology, it's called a stellium of planets in Libra. Now, in Mr. Trump's case, barring everything else in the chart, this gives him a lot of class. It gives him a lot of charisma. He could talk himself out of whatever situation he's in. And I think that's very viewable. I think a whole lot of his supporters believe that, yes. And it helps him a lot, hurts a lot of us, because on his negative side, it's a big combination of planets that is equal to B plus S. BS is what these 3 planets can do if they're not integrated in a higher way. We see Pluto buried in the 12th house. We're not sure what that means yet. That could be foreboding. We also see another bucket pattern, which we just found out about in the last several years, which is over to Eris. Okay, Eris is at 6 degrees of Aries. Remember, Eris moves 120 years to go through the sign of Aries. 540 years to go around. And we're finding more planets beyond Eris. Eris entered Aries in 1921. It'll be there till 2040, I think, something like that. Right now, it's about 24 degrees. So my lifetime, it's gone from 5 to 24. Moves very slowly. But you see a bucket pattern to Eris. Now, what's fascinating is Eris has just now become acceptable to talk about and include in in the dialogue with astrology, because us astrologers are very careful about taking on new planets, new bodies, new asteroids, because once they're on there, they change the chart dramatically. And Eris is no picnic. Now, we must say that Eris was discovered in '05. Look at what's happened in the last 14 years. Eris is chaos, discord. It's also the Me Too movement. It's what about me? I can't be left behind. I will battle for fairness. I will battle for fairness. And this is why we love to think, and we are pretty convinced, that in some way, Eris is some type of ruler of the sign Libra. There's no doubt about it, but it's certainly not the Venusian side of Libra. But we got Eris among us now. And that, I told you weeks ago, is why for the last several years, I've been unable to figure out what's going on, because I knew what was going on was not just Neptune and Pluto. Something was new. Chiron came onto the scene, but Eris did. And Eris is really stirring things up, okay? And look, he's got a bucket pattern to Eris. All right, now we're going to get down to the work. I'm telling you, people could be born, male or woman, same hospital, same year, and they could be pretty much fine. They would definitely have a lot of his tendencies, but to be on such a world stage at such a critical time, he was around for an awful long time. It didn't affect that much, but now he's affecting everything. In my opinion, he is an avatar of the ugly American. But people may agree with me, and that's okay too, because I don't know it. I don't know anything. I just have some opinions. Now, when we go back and look at his chart, hello, Linda. I threw that guy out that was complaining about you, by the way. I didn't like what he says. I got rid of him on Facebook. Insult my friend. What'd you say?
I'm a big girl.
I know, but I didn't like when he started calling you names on Facebook.
I mean, like, he doesn't even know me. I mean,
he just wanted to argue with somebody. I get rid of it. Okay. Now, here we're going to dig down into the gooey stuff, all right? Venus, Saturn. We've already talked about this. Now, in his chart, the real secret, if I get through all these tools I have here, the real secret is right there. This is him being very public. The moon, Sag, sun is why he's doing all of this tweeting. All the Gemini in his why doesn't have the patience to look through long articles or read long books. He just takes knee-jerk reactions at what he sees, all that stuff. The Mars and Leo is the, oh, you think I won't just try me? I'll show you. Okay? This is the charmer. This is the part of him that he doesn't know anything about. This is the part of him where he's playing a cultural avatar role. Remember, we're going through Mr. Trump as the United States is approaching its Pluto return. This is a big deal. The United States was born with Pluto about 26 degrees of Capricorn, right here. And 256 years later, Pluto's gone all the way around. Pluto is now about 21. So we've only got about 5 more degrees till Pluto returns. That's a great big deal. That's a real test to the survival of any civilization. It's got its good side. It's got its terrible side. We could rebound. It's all about redefining a new country. And in my mind, it's very clear. It's about coming up with a Constitution 2.0. because we sure need one. The secret to this chart is right here. Venus, Saturn, 2 degrees apart in the sign of Capricorn. We notice they're squared by Jupiter, but the critical thing is that it's not on the point of the T-square. The point of the T-square is Eris over to Neptune over to Mercury. Okay, so that's the point of the T-square here. But this is all by itself, Venus, Saturn in Cancer. Now let me go over this with you. All right. The Venus in your chart is really important. Like if you're dating a woman and you see where her Venus is, that tells you a lot how to treat her. If your Venus and her Venus is in Leo, you want to bring her roses, make a big deal out of her. If her Venus is in Cancer, you want to take her something small and pretty. If her Venus is in Virgo, you want to stay away from that stuff and talk to her about all the hard work that you're doing and being a self-made person. So Venus has a lot to do with a person's affections. It's the feminine side of everybody, while Mars is the opposite. Mars is the masculine side, and you really need a healthy balance in the two. Now, looking at Trump with just that, it's excellent. He's got Mars in Leo, which is masculine and strong. He's got Venus in Cancer, which is very feminine and accepting. But not when you put it next to Saturn. All right. I cannot tell you how many thousands of charts I see with Venus combined with Saturn. It is unbelievable. Liza and I shake our head. We can't believe, we can't understand it. I got some clues. Venus opposite Saturn, Venus conjunct Saturn, Venus square Saturn. It just shows up all the time. You don't see that with Jupiter and Mars. You don't see that with Saturn and Neptune, but Venus and Saturn is everywhere. I think one of the reasons that you see it so much is Venus and Saturn is a sign of somebody who has difficulty in some way of socializing. And I think what happens, like Arroyo says, a lot of times when you have difficulty with something, you overdo it. You go the opposite extreme. You become very social because you're trying to get past that Venus-Saturn conjunction. In the old books, Venus-Saturn meant coldness, not letting people in, not very friendly, etc. I have watched this for many years. I've seen many things about it. Whenever you get Venus involved or the moon involved, the two emotional planets, it can be very confusing. It's so broad, all the archetype possibilities. I've seen unhappy mother, unhappy father, a belief that you should just be unhappy. I got a good friend of mine who's in terrible shape now. He's in his 60s, and he just believes that he's supposed to suffer. Nicest guy in the world. He believes he's supposed to suffer. He got beat a lot by his drunken father. And I'm convinced it's not the parents. It goes back to the past life. It does. I've seen enough evidence. A lot of Venus-Saturn people are unhappy because mommy's unhappy. If she's going to be unhappy, I'll be unhappy with her because the kid wants to be loved. A lot of kids take a tiny bit of criticism, and it really isn't meant to be that hard, but it crushes them and they learn that they're not worthy. So Venus-Saturn is really critical because it's your ability to socialize. So you see these kids in high school and junior high who are flowers on the wall. They're all by themselves sitting in the gymnasium. They don't want to dance. That's very Venus-Saturn. Now, if you've got Venus-Saturn, don't freak out. There are a lot of people with Venus-Saturn that do just fine. Okay? But what we're getting to is something much bigger than this. I know Suzanne has been spending a lot of time on our show here, our Suzanne. She's been doing a lot of channeling with Mrs. Trump. I'm not going to get into that now. I don't care if Mrs. Trump was good to him or bad to him. I don't want to get into that now because I don't want to take the focus off of him. All I can say to you is this. The Venus and Saturn in his chart in Cancer appears to be a center of nobody loves me. This is the core of Mr. Trump. Nobody loves me. Everybody's unfair. Nobody treats me right. He brings it on to himself all the time. I deserve to suffer. Blah, 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 blah. And I don't really think it matters much what Mrs. Trump did. I think that he brought this forth from a past lifetime. Think I'll go eat worms. Okay, Erica. That's right. Nobody loves me. I think I'll go eat worms. I'm glad I remembered to start the recording because John's not here. So Venus-Saturn is very complex. It can be very sad. And when it's hit by another planet, it can be a big deal. It can lead to suicide. It can lead to marriage. It can lead to all kinds of turning points. Because what happens with Venus-Saturn, a lot of people, is they're too careful in their relationship. And they ask me, why do I always have these bad relationships? Why do I always have these bad relationships? Well, I see it and I work with them and I feel for them. I work with them. A lot of times, the consistent codependent results in relationships is because they're working too hard at it. Oh, Karen, I'm taking you to the movies tonight. Is that a movie you like? Well, Karen, we can go somewhere. Well, Karen, you think you might like it? Huh? If not, I'm going to take you to dinner. We don't have to go to a movie. You know, just hyperness, like a Barney Fife type of thing. Wherever Saturn is in your chart, thank God it's there because it's the main planet. But it gets you into trouble because it overworks. It gets you into trouble because it over worries about making sure. Is this going to work? Make sure. Make sure. If it's in your 7th house, relationship, hey, did you like me? Did he write to you? I don't know. I've been 3 days. I haven't heard from him. If it's in your 2nd house of money, oh, we made that money, but did we get enough money? Hey, get some money. Get some money. So Saturn over freaks out because it's a very controlling planet. And control and the zodiac do not work together. Control and spiritual movement do not coincide. You got to let go. So, what's been happening to Mr. Trump? I don't know whether he hates his mom, he loves his mom, he felt like he got enough love, he didn't get enough love. And it's not always the mama. It could be the father. Boy, I had a curveball yesterday. I had a person whose Saturn was retrograde opposite all their planets. And retrograde, and usually when Saturn is retrograde and it's in a special, powerful situation, you're going to be distant from your father. She said, Mom and Dad were fine. I was stunned. I was shocked. I see Mom and Dad are fine when the Saturn is not strong. But when Saturn is really strong, it's almost always so. She was a rarity. So we don't know what it is. But this is why you hear Mr. Trump always talking about fair. It's not fair. Not treating me fair. You guys are doing a witch hunt on me. You're not fair to me. You had a bad deal. It wasn't fair. It wasn't a good one. You don't treat me right. He treats me right. She don't treat me right. He treats me right. They don't treat me right. He's using that word all the time. Being treated and fairness. And what happens with Cancer energy when it's wounded? It's fearing to God getting attacked. This tremendous fear of being attacked. And what happens with so many cancers, a lot of them, they get past it. A lot of them are strong enough. But what happens with so many cancers, they'll attack you first because they're sure you're going to attack them. They will. They'll attack you first because they're sure. Or they'll come home and they're convinced that you attack them. Well, what did they say? Well, nothing. But they attacked me. How did they attack you? What did they do? Well, nothing. But they attacked me. So they're super, super vigilant about being attacked. Okay? And we see with Mr. Trump what I see this is what I see. He doesn't like anybody. I don't think he likes anybody. Maybe his one daughter. Maybe. My opinion. More importantly, watch this. So you got the sore spot. And when you combine that with Mars and Leo, I got a sore spot. I'm not loved, but I will show you. But I will show you. Take a look. Now, before we get to the stage of what's happening now, I want to remind you that in the past several years, Uranus has been in this area. Uranus has been in this area. Uranus has been all through Aries since 2011. It came into Aries, and it left Aries, went into Taurus just a few months ago. It's been all in this area, and while it's been in this area, it's been squaring that Venus-Saturn back and forth. Now you got to remember, Uranus has been squaring that Venus-Saturn in Donald Trump's chart, in your chart, in the world's chart, in the country's chart. Now, an old astrologer will tell you Uranus is squaring your Saturn-Venus, and Uranus is all about being loosey-goosey and dating people and going out dancing, being yourself, right? And Saturn-Venus is all about, you better be careful, better be careful before they hurt you, they're going to hurt you, they're going to hurt you, they're going to hurt you, don't go out. So, during the last 7 years, as Uranus has been squaring Venus-Saturn, collectively, we've all been pressed upon to start to open our hearts. Oh no, they might have some guy from Jordan hiding under these apples and oranges in that cart. Oh no, he might pop out and get me. There's ridiculous fears of somebody's going to come up, so we better close up. Uranus square Venus Saturn, when you deal with it properly and you deal with it in the same way, the personality feels, wow, I can't keep doing this to my Venus. If I've got Venus, Saturn, and Uranus is hitting it, I'm going to be, if I'm normal, I'm going to be feeling, I don't have to be so uptight. I don't have to be so wrapped up tight, wear such tight clothes, button my button to the top. I don't have to do that. I can loosen up. I can try some new people. I don't have to get married. I can try dating for a while. It's about loosening up, control. Because Uranus is a part of you. Saturn is a part of you. But what we see is during that time, those forces were at play within Mr. Trump, and he was unable to make the shift. And that's when Uranus goes awry, and it doesn't get pleased, it turns into chaos. Crack. Chaos, crack. So I'm sure he was not aware at all that parts of himself are ready to start to transcend its Saturn-Venus. I'm sure he had lots of opportunities to start to transcend it, but he didn't do it. The country level, didn't do it. Worldwide level, didn't do it. It's being done at other levels, yes. Very complex. So this 7-year period of him having the opportunity to dramatically crack his own outer shell, to crack the shell so that he could breathe a little bit, he missed the opportunity. In May 16th of last year, Uranus went into Taurus. It's gone into Taurus. It's gone back into Aries. It's coming forward again to come into Taurus for good for the next 7 years. So remember, this is the background of which we speak. Now I'm going to get into the next thing. All right. The era. When a planet comes by and hits you, compare where it is compared to where your planet was. When a planet comes by and hits you, it's not that big of a deal. Things happen. When you're a new astrologer, you worry, oh my God, here comes Mars, and you sweat, and it goes by and you're still alive. When you get more advanced in astrology, you know what to look for and you don't get as freaked out. Different planets come by different speeds. The moon for a couple hours, Venus for a couple days, Mars for a couple of days, Saturn maybe for a year, going back and forth, Neptune maybe for 2 or 3 years, Pluto maybe 5 years. It goes over these points in our chart. These are the eras we're going through. To give you an idea what an era is like, it's like kids running by your house with sparklers. They run by, they're joyous, they're making some noise, and they're gone. Well, one day somebody parks a great big petrol truck next to your bedroom window. That's the era. That truck's going to be there 5 years, 3 years. That's when Pluto's hitting you, when Neptune's hitting you, when the biggies are hitting you, going back and forth. That's the era. That truck is going to be by your bedroom window for the next 3 years. Now, it's got its own dangers right there. But now what do you think happens when the kids run by with sparklers? Ah! That's the trigger. That's the trigger. And that's what we're talking about tonight. Watch this. I'm going to show you where the planets are now. Give me a moment, please, to set up all these screens and to make sure you can see them. Okay, now what you're going to see is Mr. Trump's non-moving birth chart in the center. Okay? And you're going to see on the outside, you see where the planets are now. This is where the planets are exactly right now. And notice that Pluto is at almost 21 degrees. And right across from 21 degrees is his Saturn, Venus. Okay? So as we speak, Pluto is lined up right with his Saturn. You see that? That's the great big oil truck backing up next to the White House. That's the era. Now, Pluto's going to go back and forth, and on April 24th coming, Pluto's going to get really close to 2348. It's going to stop and go backward. It's going to go back and forth, and eventually it's going to hit that Saturn, and then it's going to hit that Venus. This is the weak spot in the chart. But this isn't Uranus. This is Pluto. All right. If you've got a problematic Venus-Saturn, because you can get past Venus-Saturn, you can get by opening your heart more, being a little more trusting. That's what Venus-Saturn's trouble is. He's going to hurt me and I'm going to stay closed. Well, a lot of times Venus-Saturn gets in trouble because you broadcast that before the person's opened their mouth. Hi, Barbara. I'm glad we're having a date tonight, but you're going to hurt me, aren't you? 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 Well, you're obviously going to hightail it, or you're going to think something's weird, or you are going to hurt me on purpose because I keep doing it. So a lot of Cancerian energy like that creates their own problem by being so uptight. And as the Course in Miracles says, A lot of Cancerian energy attacks first and creates the problem. The other person sees it as an attack and counterattacks. And then they're seen as the attacker. So if I walk in a room with you and I go, you're in a room with your family, and I'm like this, and I don't trust anybody, you're going to attack me, you're going to attack me. What I'm doing is I'm offending your family. I'm offending your family because I'm saying subconsciously, you guys are going to attack me, aren't you? Now, some people in your family might take offense at that and might send some zingers back at me, etc. Anyhow, as Pluto has been lying, Pluto didn't start yesterday. This Pluto has been coming on, and this is why he's getting so much flack. You ever seen anybody? Presidents are lampooned all the time. You ever see anybody get hated like this globally? This guy is just tearing the place apart. And he loves it and he hates it. He loves it and he hates it. See, I told you they were mean. See, I told you they would attack. See, I told you. See, I told you. See, I told you they're not fair. Okay, now when the Pluto lines up with it, it's a completely different story than the Uranus was squaring it. Pluto is what? It's very complex. Pluto is a very strong power inside of you connected to the collective. And its job is to get you on the road with the collective evolving. And if you're not evolving, then you must have a blockage. And if you have a blockage and you're lucky, then you'll go see a psychologist or an astrologer. You'll discover what the blockage is and you'll start to work on it. And things will get better. But if you don't and you go into denial, which is the first stage of Pluto, and you don't get to stage 2, which is let's work on it. If you just stay in the stage 1 of denial, you got trouble. So now we got this great big oil tanker parked right next to his Saturn. Hasn't even got to his Venus yet. Okay? And now what's happening inside Mr. Trump now, and he's far too shallow to understand this because Geminis are about as far as you're going to get from Scorpio. And since Pluto rules Scorpio, he's undergoing scorpionic energies, which is why they're so dangerous. It's why he's dealing with international nuclear issues. He's dealing with every issue you could think of in the country. You think Venus Saturn is something like the wall? Do you think Venus Saturn could be something like putting up a wall around your heart? Huh? That's why it's happening. Nothing happens. Nothing happens unless the planets are there. It's not possible. Now what's happening inside of him, he's saying, boy, this is just not working. Life does not work when you put a wall around your heart. Life works when you become vulnerable. I knew a woman once. I'm going to sidetrack for a second. I knew a woman, I worked closely with her, and she got very sick, and she had cancer, and she was beaten all of her life, and it was a very sad story. And I worked with her, and as life went on, and as she got into her 70s, every time I'd go see her, there would be no lights on in the house. And at the end of her life, there was just a television. No light in another room, no night light. Very sad. But when you're full of darkness, you can't stand the light. When you're full of darkness, you got to put out the light. And when Venus, Saturn is crippling you, Pluto identifies it as the blockage to your evolution. But here's the difference. Pluto's other job is to destroy you. Pluto's, I'm bringing you the strength. I'm bringing you the strength. Listen to me. I'm bringing you the strength. I'm bringing you the strength. Listen to me. Listen to me. Listen to me. And after a while, after about 500 times, Pluto says he's not going to listen, so I'm going to rub him out. That's Pluto's job. That's why Pluto has such a negative connotation. It's unfair. because Pluto gives you a lot of great opportunities to rise above the ashes. So that's what's going on. What do you think's going on in those back rooms with Mr. The guy gaining evidence against him? What do you think's going on? They're piling on the evidence. They're piling it on. They're piling it on. Piling it on. Proof. Who goes out and hires 17 lawyers in one day if they're innocent? So now what you've got is this. Mueller, thank you. I'm getting brain dead. I forget names. Mr. Mueller. And Mr. Mueller is he's very much a Virgo Libra. I'm sorry. He's very much a Virgo Leo. Karen, he's really an excellent example of a Virgo doing his work and the Leo pride. He's doing it to the letters of the law. Okay. But you got to understand as I'm talking to you, these same things are happening to our parks. They're happening to you, to your village, to your country, to all countries. It's all going on at the same time. Macrocosm, microcosm. So even though this is going to get temporarily scary and scared the bejesus out of us, it's also really good. Because when something's not working, you got to blow it up. I'm working with a woman now. I'm not going to mention names. I've been working with her for a long time, maybe 15 years. And by God, she finally got the bum out of her house. And she's taken out all the stuff out of her basement. And today she told me that she got people down there spraying the walls. She's cleaning. And I said, wow, this is the number one thing I want to see with everybody. She's trying, she's working, and her life's going to get better and better and better and better and better and better. But for months and years, she couldn't move. She couldn't move. She couldn't do it. Well, in Mr. Trump's case, what happens is the ego gets involved. And when the ego gets involved, he's right, the whole world's wrong. Look at the ridiculous things he says about he knows more than the Pentagon, or he knows more about this story. He doesn't even know what the capital of these countries are. Okay, anyhow. So let's get to the point. Here we go. Now, on April 24th, I will set the clock here to 4:24. Okay. You see that Pluto has become stationary. So Pluto's gone from 21, 22, 23. It's not getting quite to him. He's at 23:48, and it's going stationary. That's what the S means. And then it's going to retrograde because the outer planets go forward for 7 months. They go backward for 5 months. But it's so close. What's the difference if that oil tanker is 3 inches from your house or 2 inches? Still really dangerous. But it's really symbolic the night that a planet stops. So on April 24th, I think we're going to have really significant experiences. And I'm going to make myself very clear. This does not mean he will be thrown out of office. This does not mean he will lose his mind. This does not mean someone will assassinate him. This does not mean he's going to become healthy. Because when you look at these planets, you have to look at what's the condition of this guy all along. What's probable? What's probable? Well, he's making a scene every day, and you wake up every day and you say, oh my God, there can't be another scene today, and he finds a way. But now the fact that that truck is so close, you don't even need the sparklers. It can get so dangerous just from the fumes. Now, what can happen? What can happen? He can be destroyed. What can happen? He can bring the nation to its knees, which he's doing a good job now. What can happen? And you're seeing it all around, which I've talked to for 12 years. Other countries don't want to play with us. Other countries like Mexico and Waldo, they're smart. They just climb over the fence. Or get in an airplane. Or dig a ditch. Whatever. But you see, it's so symbolic. It's not just his group that's following him. He's harping on this fence because it is the Saturn that surrounds his Venus. Because if you're getting closer to my heart, you're getting closer to my heart, you're getting closer, I got to build a bigger steel wall around it. And that's the exact opposite of what you got to do. You got to bring the walls down and cry and surrender and relax and let it heal. And then everybody magically forgives you. But not in his world. It's build the wall, build the wall, build the wall. And he's bringing out of his followers the same instinct. The same instinct to cover up. I don't have the URL. Maybe somebody would be kind enough to look for me tonight on my website. The article I wrote about cancer. We're a cancer country, and we need to become unblocked as opposed to blocked. Maybe somebody could find that article and display it for us. It's an article that about 4 years old explains the United States being vulnerable instead of always, diving towards being invulnerable. Okay, so now what's going to happen is this. That article is really a must to understand this planet. Okay, so we go to April 24th. Now, what's happening, this is why astrologers get bad mouth, because these dates combine, nothing happens, because the newspaper has you programmed into thinking it's going to happen that day. It didn't happen that day. Next day, nothing happened. Well, the truck is sitting there. It's an error. It could happen at any time, and it happens by sub-triggers. So we go forward to May 16th. We move forward by all this. Notice the date moving here. We go forward to May 16th. Not much longer. What do we see in May 16th? Mars has entered Cancer. Doesn't take much. Mars has been in Gemini. It crosses into Cancer. Boom! That's like some guy parks a truck 3 houses away with a whole back load on his truck of sparklers. It's not really threatening, but boy, it sure looks like it could be. These are the dates. You can write these dates down. These are the dates when this is going to blow in some way, and they're all going to be kind of similar. The first date's going to be May 16th, when Mars crosses into Cancer, and it's going to be here a couple months, and it's going to send its shock waves to anything that's happening around that Saturn, including the Pluto that's sitting opposite. All right? Then, May 27th. Mars is now a degree from his ruling planet. Now, his ruling planet's not under any pressure. There's no big truck sitting next to it, but it's his ruling planet. And when Mars hits your ruling planet, what it's known for is you acting out in an aggressive format, in an aggressive way. If Mars were hitting from across Mercury, somebody would be attacking him. If Mars were hitting from up here, it would be coming from the public. If Mars were hitting from down here, it would be coming from within the family. So this is coming from within. This is very possible that he's going to make some major aggressive proclamation. This is light. This is very serious stuff, because it's all taking place during the era that Pluto is opposite Saturn, which is the weak spot. Then we move forward to his birthday. We go to 6/13. We go to the night before. The night before birthdays are always much more dangerous than birthdays, and that means anything. A dog, a business, whatever. The eve is much more dangerous astrologically than the day. Here is the sun at 21. His sun is at 22. And the sun will trigger within 1 degree. The sun will trigger the sun. And I'm going to tell you this, and maybe you can figure this out. A zodiac is an organic whole. An organic whole. Parts of it are personal, parts of it are intrapersonal, parts of it are impersonal, cosmic. So when the sun gets hit by the sun, it's still going to rock your pinball machine. It's still going to rock this Pluto, which is in aspect to Saturn, just because the sun's hitting sun. Okay? You have to watch these things for years to get these kind of visions. Also, the next day will be dangerous, the day of the birthday. Usually the day before the birthday is much more shocking. It can also be a great day if he were to apply the Pluto-Saturn principles. If Pluto were hitting my Saturn, what would I be doing? Okay, in a healthy personality, Pluto hitting Saturn. The big planets make you see. Eclipses make you see. I can see where being rigid is killing me. I think so. I can see where being rigid is killing me. I can see where me wrapping up too tight and not opening my heart is hurting me. Yeah, I just got back from the heart doctor. No wonder. So these things can very well be wonderful turning points also. But you got to look at the person's given growing past. All right. Now we're getting the fun time. We jump forward to June 19th. All right, here's June 19th. Mars is at 22. Saturn is at 23. Pluto is at 22. This is extremely dangerous. You've now got the professional firefighters outside your house, sparklers going on all around you, hoping to God it doesn't blow up. This is really, really, really dangerous. This can take the place, it can take the form as North Korea getting wild with us or Iran getting wild with us, but it's all going to go back to his ability to be open or not and human. It's that simple. It also may be him hitting, I've had it up to here, everybody's so unfair, I'll launch one against you. But this is dangerous because Mars is the main violent trigger. And here you got Pluto sitting here, 22, Saturn 23, here comes Mars along, 22. This is the most dangerous time. I found 2 really dangerous issues. This is one. This will take place around the 19th and 20th. And remember, on the 20th, we enter summer. So that's another tilt. That's another shake to your pinball machine that you hope doesn't tilt. Then we go to 6/13, which is the birthday. We go next to 7/14. Okay, on the 14th day of July, the sun will be triggering Saturn. And the sun will trigger Saturn. Your triggers in the zodiac are the sun, Mars, and the moon. The sun can really trigger things, not as usually as intense as Mars, but the sun can really trigger this. But the sun, what it does is it makes this issue really big on the news. The sun shines on it. Everybody sees it. It becomes an issue. And these people, all these theorists will come out with, oh, I think it's got to do with something in his childhood and stuff, blah, 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 blah. It's astrological. So here you see Pluto is 2152. It's still in the vicinity. The air are bothering Saturn. It's still not even bothering Venus yet. And here's the sun piling up on top of it. Okay, now we're getting to the big one. The big one is 2 days later. Look at this. Boom. A lunar eclipse. A lunar eclipse with Chiron. So 23, 59, 23. Okay. So here is the sun and moon eclipsing, a partial lunar eclipse. You can see the moon is at the bottom of the chart, so it won't be visible. Oh, that's not true. Strike that from the record. But do you see what's happening? The Pluto is still sitting on the Saturn. Now the eclipse has enveloped it like bookends. And now look what you got. A T-square to Eris at the same degree. This is lethal. This is very, very scary. I'm going to put this up here and I'm going to show you what I mean. You got the eclipse. You get the eclipse, all of the end up standing Pluto, pressuring the natal Saturn. You got the T-square to transiting Eris, all at the same time. Now you've got everything going. This is likely to be, I don't know, but this is likely to be the vicinity of the Mueller report coming out. It's likely to be when the Supreme Court makes decisions, because you know he's going to battle this thing back and forth and delay it as long as possible. But you're not going to get past July the 16th, where the writing on the wall is not going to be seen. Now, I do not mean that this man is going to fall off the wall, but I'm telling you, since you've got a personality that's already so unstable, who among you could be so unstable and face these forces? These are earthquakian forces. I'm going to bring up another subject. And this I do delicately and I do carefully because I'm still doing a lot of research on it. I know I'm right, but I can't. I need some help with it. Maybe Linda can help me. Maybe Linda can help me someday. We can work together. Death wishes. When Pluto is around, it is very common to start to form a death wish. Death wishes can take many forms, but you can understand a death wish. I want out of this mess. What personality can withstand this kind of bombarding? I want out of this mess. Now, Linda Jordan, Linda Platt, maybe we can talk about it. I think you're very talented in these areas and we should give it some thought. The trouble with a death wish is you usually get what you wish for. There are people that talk about him quitting because the pressure is too big. There are people that talk about him being exiled to Russia. There are people that talk about him being reelected. Then the awful thought of, what if we get him out of office and a whole lot of pickup trucks start coming down your street with shotguns? So it's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. And the reason it's crazy is this is all going on at the same time that the nation is going through its Pluto return. And I give you this. if I can find it. Let's see if I can find it. I would like to read for you some of the words from the Statue of Liberty. Give me your tired, give me your poor, and your huddled masses that are yearning to break free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed, to me, because I lift my lamp beside the golden door, and my arms are spread open. The reason I say this is this. After years of studying Pluto and people fail under Pluto returns for one reason. Companies fail under Pluto returns for one main reason. And the reason is they lose their direction. They lose their mission statement. What do you think's happening to the Steelers? I've been writing about that for 10 years. The Steelers, for years, you were bummed, you were out. You got in trouble with the law, you were out. You got in this trouble with the media, you were out. What do you think's happened to the Steelers going down, 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 down because we keep putting up with stuff? We've strayed from our mission statement. Think of companies around you. Think of people around you. Think of the United States. We cannot have this schizophrenic, throw them out, put up a wall, put the little kids in jail. At the same time, we're the Statue of Liberty. We're the freedom ones, bring them in. Schizophrenic, we've lost our credibility in the world. It's not just Mr. Trump. So that's why all this is going on. It's all going on. We're certainly going to see this summer, April, May, June, July, we're going to see major turning points. Yes. The climate, all those issues. I don't even have to ask Waldo or Elke or anybody in another country what their countries think of ours, because I don't need to know, because I already know what they think. And I think they also know there's a lot of good people here. An awful lot of good people here. So tonight has been a expose for you to show you how it's showing up in this chart. There's absolutely no way. It is absolutely not possible that he's going to skate through this. You're not going to skate through this. I don't care how good of a BSer you are. You're not going to skate through it. So in the remaining 15 minutes, I would like to open it up for your questions. If you have questions to me about this, I would be glad to get into them. I think most of you understand what's happening. I don't think any of you are surprised. So if you have a question, unmute yourself, and we'll leave the taping continuing on YouTube. So go ahead, anybody. Linda Jordan, Linda Platt, I would like to ask you, do you think, Eric, I'll get to you next. Do you think that you and I could dig up some interesting thoughts about the death wish?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Linda is a very fine student of mine and a professor of English here in Pittsburgh, and I would love to work with you. Thank you. I'll contact you. Yes, Erica, dear, let me find you on the screen. There you go, dear. Okay, yes, your comment or question?
My question is about his south node being right between his sun and Uranus in his birth chart, you know, opposite to that moon in Sagittarius, and sometimes the south node can be sort of our Achilles heel and where we lose big time. That's in the 10th house.
My comment to you is, after 40 years, I have taken the nodes off the screen.
Okay.
That is my comment to you. I have seen astrologers do absolute magic with them. I cannot do it. I do not agree with what they are. I think they're completely overrated. I cannot comment. So what you say about the South Node is probably more valuable than me.
Wishful thinking.
Well, the South Node represents where you're stuck, what you used to do. The North Node, what you should do. But it's kind of vague place, and I think it's important noting that. But it's been bugging me for so long on that screen. I just picked it up and I removed it.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions? Kathy, yes, I'm allowed to do that. So there. Marcia Budd.
Yes. With this Pluto return,
Yes.
it's been happening for a long time, right?
Yes.
And that is what's been contributing to the state of our country.
Well,
Not only Trump.
Well, you have many things involved here. The answer is yes. If you study Mr. Tarnas, who's the expert, he will use 15-degree orbs with that planet. To me, the Pluto stuff started when it entered Capricorn on Friday night, January 25th, 2008, when it started.
That was during the financial crisis.
That's what brought the financial crisis.
Brought the financial crisis.
Right, as it was getting close. Well, the thing is, if you look at a Saturn return, or you look at a Mars return, or you look at a Venus return, when you look at a Pluto return, there are not that many entities that are 256 years old that you can study. But what you can ascertain, I mean, we could go back and find countries old enough to study. The number one thing about a Pluto return is, you see, Pluto doesn't mess around. I mean, he's got this bad rap, but Pluto is really strongly positive. Pluto doesn't put up with any shit. It just doesn't. And Pluto wants to examine, and you cannot doctor your report card. You can't cheat off of notes. Pluto wants to give you your final report card on how well you've been dealing with using power or abusing it. It's that simple. That's what Pluto's going to do. And we have many voices in this country trying to say, we're abusing our power, let's fix it. And we have a lot of forces that just continue, same old, same old. So yes, indeed. So all these things are going on while Pluto is going to get closer. In 2024 is when it's going to be exact. And then it's going to go back and forth. But it's also very common during times of great destruction that there will be times of great construction. We're going to see great things happen and heroic efforts that we're seeing starting now. Yes, both. Does that help?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely, and then you have to add on to the fact that out of nowhere came Eris. And Eris really complicated things. And she's exactly where she needs to be. Suzanne, let me find you here, dear. Thank you, Marcia. Suzanne, I got my glasses off. Suzanne, go ahead and unplug yourself. Unmute yourself. Go ahead. Here you go. You're on.
Okay, Rick, now this might be repeating yourself, but what is Trump's biggest Achilles heel? I'm told that it's his sense of being vulnerable. He can't tolerate being vulnerable, but could it be his ego? If you squash his emotions, he doesn't care. But if you do something with his ego, and I'm wondering if his Achilles heel has something to do with when Pluto is transferring over and then transiting over, and then the dynamic with Saturn. So do you think that his Achilles heel, whatever that is, would be the thing that kind of propels him into some type of action?
Well, absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind that the Achilles heel is Venus Saturn. There's no doubt, because at the real core of it, You know, if you don't feel loved and you feel everybody's screwing you all the time, then you feel like the hell with all of you. I don't care what happens to you. And you see a lot of that behavior. You see a lot of that behavior. And you know much more about his life than I do. But the chance is always there to rebound. You see, when Pluto hits something, that's when your power comes. I told you about the woman cleaning out her basement now, and she's spraying it down, power spraying it. She's found her power. And she's going to go up, 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 up. But she had to go through tremendous suffering for 10 years. But she fought and she had direction. She fought and she had direction. And she had me telling her, it's going to be all right. And just keep doing these things. It's going to be all right. Well, he's not in that ballpark. And beside that, we've talked about trying to ascertain where his sailboat's going next, when we have obviously seen his sail has been blown into millions of pieces. He's completely unpredictable. I think he is insane. My opinion. Now, if we had gotten to him in his 20s or 30s, and he had the right combination of stuff, there were possibilities that he could turn it around for the better. But all indications are here that it's going to get really ugly.
So what's his Achilles heel again?
The Venus-Saturn.
The Venus-Saturn.
Yeah.
And what does that represent real quick?
What it represents is I can't trust anybody. And those of you that are trusting people, you're lying to me. You're faking me. He doesn't believe that someone else can trust somebody.
Yeah.
I'm a fake, you're a fake. We're all fake. What's the difference? I mean, what is going on with this? Hands always like this. What is it saying to us? This is not Jesus Christ. Why are his hands always like this? I'm innocent.
Maybe he's trying to hold something. He's trying to hold himself together. He doesn't have a base within himself. He's holding himself.
Well, possibly. I don't know, but I think it's a real good question to address. Next question. Thank you, Suzanne. Anybody else? We got about 7 minutes. Got questions? Funny, Rick. Okay. Anybody else got questions? Marilyn, yes, dear.
I was going to say, I notice oftentimes when he's talking, his hands are just crossed.
Yeah.
He's like he's closed off. But
well, a lot of times people in nonverbal communication will claim that arms crossed are a defensive mechanism, but it's also been found that arms crossed can be a good thing because it symbolizes you keeping your integrity, you keeping strong. I mean, face it, everybody. Let's talk about the facts, all right? Let's talk about the facts. We got a really unstable president.
I agree.
He's really, really dangerous. He really shows the propensity when the trouble gets near the door to go do something goofy. He has also shown in the case of Puerto Rico that he doesn't care how many people die. Can you imagine dying because you can't get your insulin? Can you imagine what that would be like? Well, I'm tossing them paper towel rolls. So we're dealing with a freak of nature here. But remember the biggest thing. We're dealing with the countries, non-American countries are asking, what's wrong with us that we're putting up with this? That's the story. And you can't tell me how strong your Constitution is when we don't have a way out. This is the story. I mean, I give you the facts. I give you the good and the bad and the ugly. But I'm also realistic. You know, and I just personally can't stand how these families are suffering, that while the government's shutting down, and on and on and on and on, all these different stories. Anybody else?
He's a lunatic.
Elke, tell us about you Canadians. Come on, dear.
Well,
tell us how you Canadians see it. Then we'll go to Waldo and talk. We'll go over to Waldo and see what he says.
there's a lot of people here attacking Trump, Trudeau, I should say, the same way. There's a lot of people that absolutely hate Trudeau the same way that they hate Trump. Every country, I think, is really divided right now, and I'm just wondering if it is the Pluto return of the US, but that can't be, because there is China, there is Asia, you know, like they're fighting everywhere, like every country, like Brazil has got a,
these planets are going on for everybody.
well, that's right. So I don't know. I mean, yes, the Pluto return for the US, but there is more going on than that. It's
Oh, yeah.
much deeper.
Well, remember, when the head gets transited, the body reacts. So I'm telling you, what happens to us happens to all. You may be in Uruguay and bitching about the U.S. being the #1 country, but at the same time, when the #1 country starts to get shaky, what happens to your economy? I mean, it's scary everywhere. But the whole thing's very simple, Elke, as you know this. It all comes down to very simple. Jesus Christ 101. It all comes down simple. Are we going to, there's no reason in the last 50 years, we should have opened our doors to South America. We should have opened it to Africa and helped these countries develop, instead of going in there in a sneaky way and stealing their stuff. Help them develop, and it would come back and serve to everybody. Now is our chance, and all this is happening because we're heading towards Pluto going into Aquarius. We're heading for the age of Aquarius, and that's what we need, is to get out of this stuff and head into Aquarius, where the mindset's going to be stronger about us working together. Come on, south of the border, Waldo, what do you think?
Well, I like to see it from the perspective of the evolutionary astrology. I think Donald Trump is there because he has to be. Because, I mean, when I see his Pluto in the 12th house, I have a lot in common with Donald Trump. I have the moon inside, I have Pluto in the 12th, and I see this person that came in to open up a big can of worm. Right. I mean, you have a crook Congress from many, many, many years. You have a crook generals from many, many, many years. And the society will never see this because they live in this dream world created by Hollywood.
Yeah.
I mean, I spent 13 years in the service. I know how these people move. So what can I say? Like Erky says, it's everywhere. Why is everywhere? Because these forces, they are not, I mean, I'm talking about the forces, the energy, the big, it has to change. We were living in this world that we created out of clouds. Donald Trump probably is an asshole or whatever, but is still digging out all these other ones that are hidden. They are the one really that hurting the country. And as much as we don't like racism, supremacy, everything else, we still have it in the country. He's channeling that energy. He's not the one creating that. He's just channeling the big energy. It's gonna change. It's gonna take a while. I don't like, you guys think that we care about the wall. We don't care about the wall. We don't care about the wall. We don't even live close to the wall. We don't care. Puerto Rico don't care about they throwing the towels. Puerto Rico can get out with that. I mean, we can suppress Donald Trump because we don't put attention to Donald Trump anymore. I wish you guys put attention to your Congress people, because those are the ones that are getting away with not running the country the way they're supposed to be. I mean, democracy, it doesn't supposed to be one person running the country. The president is not supposed to run the country. Congress is supposed to run the country.
That's exactly why we need a Constitution 2.0. And thank you, Karen. Karen said, until we change our tone of voice with each other. That's what's got to happen. Thank you, Waldo, so much. By the way, Waldo, I wanted to let you know if I'm off a week or two, you'll be running the show.
Welcome to the ayahuasca reunion.
And we'll all come down and do
And we
ayahuasca.
could all see Donald Trump in the spirit world.
All seen in the
Talk to him.
spirit world. Ah! Now listen, everybody. Thank you. It's been a really good night. And I hope you understood tonight how an era is set up and how it gets triggered and what the probabilities are. And things can change. They can be different. But it's not because one planet's coming by and causing these things. We still have the free will to get past this. And a lot of us are doing the right things, and we just got to keep doing it. So I thank you all for coming tonight and tuning in. Tell people if they missed this, this will be on YouTube tomorrow. A reminder, next week will be free readings, but I don't know yet how people are going to get in. I'm not sure because I can't do more than about 20 as my brain starts to fry. So there'll probably be 50 people wanting readings. So I'm not sure if I'm going to have a first come, first serve or a random drawing or a hey you. I don't know. But anyhow, encouragement goes out to all of you. Happy New Year. And may we all talk kinder to our brothers and sisters, right?
Amen.
Amen.
Thanks, Rick. Happy birthday, Rick.
Thank you. Good.
Happy birthday.
Good night, everybody. Thank you very much. Bye, Kathy.
Bye, Rick.
Bye.